Welcome to this webinar. A little bit of housekeeping. We will try to keep this short and sweet. Okay, so let's get started here. On the agenda, what we're going to talk about, this is a webinar about a new vendor for us, Treedom, and we're going to talk about Treedom solutions, Picador, and others. There will be some information, but also some demo. This is not an in-depth webinar as we sometimes do for PDF Toolbox and so on. Those will undoubtedly come later, but this first one is an overview of the products. We'll also cover some commercial information, and there will be some pointers to how you can find more information and so on. So who is this new vendor? Well, they are French. It's a French company out of Paris in France, and they specialize for a long time now on making CAD and PLM software. They have a pretty broad user base across the world. It's really pretty international. And those users use it to do design packaging, to work and to work on design packaging, or they are in the markets of sign and display or point of sales material. And the solution itself is called Picador, very French name, hard to pronounce in English. And Picador is the software suite name, if you want. You'll see that as we go along, we'll talk about some of the different modules you have in there, but the overall name of the solution that you will see coming back is Picador. Picador is structural design software. Now, what is this? Well, obviously it's in the market of packaging and so on. It's the software that allows you to design not the look and feel or the artwork of a package, but the structural design of a package. So what you would do for a house with CAD/CAM software, or for an engine or other parts with CAD/CAM software, Picador is the equivalent of that, very, very similar, but with lots of features that are specific for the packaging market. Lots of people will use Illustrator for that. Picador has many features that are similar to Adobe Illustrator, but as you will see here, and as you will also see when you would download the trial version and experiment with that yourself, the solution is much more focused on this particular goal. Illustrator is a general purpose vector art tool, if you want. Picador is really focused on the design of packaging, and they have lots of specialized functionality to make that easier and quicker. And as a result, typically the design that you create here for packaging is more accurate than what you would design in Illustrator. If you think about other tools that play in the same market, of course, the big elephant in the room would be ESCO with their solutions. But yeah, you'll see that Picador has, I think, both from a commercial point of view and from a technical point of view, quite a few advantages. It is a suite, like I said. It consists of a number of different modules. The main module there is the Picador 2D design engine. This is the tool that you really will use to design stuff with. Then there is a 3D visualization engine that you can use to take that 2D design that you've created and understand how that would work from a 3D point of view. There is PackLib, which is a library with packaging templates, and Stack Builder, which helps you figure out how that package that you've created can be fitted onto a pallet or a shelf, or how smaller boxes can fit in a larger box, and how those cartons can fit into a container or into a truck, for example. So it's a pretty broad software suite in terms of functionality. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with PackLib and give you some of the main features of that product, and then Michiel, who is here with me, will follow that up with a little product demo. And this we are going to do for the 4 modules that I already introduced, starting with PackLib, then the 2D, 3D, and the palletization module to end with. Each of these demos will be short. Think about 5 minutes overview. The idea here is really to give you a feeling for what the software could do for you, and then to see if you have more questions. We can go into those questions afterwards, of course. So let's start with PackLib. PackLib is a template, and the purpose of PackLib is actually to be really lazy when you design structural design for packaging. A lot of what you do in this market is basically following standards. If you had that standard in a format that was easy to either simply use or to take as a base and then modify, then you would save a lot of time. And that's exactly what PackLib does. It has predefined standard packages for a lot of the standards in this industry, like ECMA and FEFCO. But it also has libraries for point of sales material, and it allows you to build your own libraries as well. So you could either start from scratch, or you could take existing standard designs, modify those, and then create your own library with all of those, and use that to save time or to do consistent work throughout the company. One of the advantages is that this library contains parameterized models, which means basically that you select a box and then you specify, for example, some of the parameters for that box, like width, height, depth, and so on. And then based on what you specify, the final result can then be exported to Illustrator or PDF, or you could import it into the Picador 2D engine to do further modifications. It also already in the library shows you an idea of what the 3D folded model would look like. This is not to have a full 3D visualization at that point, but it's to help you understand which of those standard packages, for example, you really want to start from. Sometimes that's easier to see with a 3D representation than with the 2D die-cut outline. So that's the purpose of PackLib. And then, Michiel, I think we need to look at what that does.
Okay, we'll go to the Windows machine here. We have PackLib over here with the other modules of the software. Let's open it up. You can see we have a library containing different folders with libraries of packaging. We have the basic ECMA and FEFCO libraries here. You can see a type of box and then all different kinds of boxes that are in that folder. There are also point of sale materials available in libraries, and as David says, you have the possibility to make your own custom libraries with your own packagings. Let's look up close at one of the boxes and just take out this one. See even more options. For example, this one. You have both the 2D design file and the 3D file here. So if I look at the 2D file, you have the parameters here. So we can see the width, the height, and the length of the box are all adjustable, as are the thickness of the cardboard you are using, and whether you want handholds or not, that kind of stuff. So if you want a box that is bigger, you can just adjust this number and you will see it reflected in the box right here.
So you could make a library either with specific dimensions, or you could make a library with these variable boxes that let you pick each time what you want for a particular project, right?
Yeah, then we open the 3D file. It'll be saved as a PDF, which we can then view on the desktop. Here we are. It contains the folding animation for the box. You can move it around, turn it over, and see how it goes in the actual process. You have an idea of what the box is like. And it contains both the design file as the 3D PDF file for all the different applications, as well as the point of sale materials. It's also possible to take one of these models, open it in the 2D file here in the 2D engine, and then adjust it to your liking by changing some of the planes, adding holes, adding windows to the boxes as you want. You can do that all by clicking the button here, and that will open it up into the 2D design engine, to which we will come back in a minute.
Perfect. I saw a question meanwhile from Kala, I think. Are these libraries free to use with the regular license? We'll come to that. The short answer is yes, but we will come to licensing stuff in the at the end of the presentation. You'll see that the licensing model is quite simple for Picador, and I think it's also quite affordable. But we'll come back to that. Then another question, can you create custom items in the local library with specific rules like number of shelves and reuse those designs? Yes, basically anything that you can design in Picador, you can also turn into or save into your local library, and you can actually even what Tridem does themselves in this library by having models that use parameters that you can change, variables that you can change. You can do that as well. So it's a little bit more technical to do, but you can create your own library, and in that library have models where you define your own parameters and how they modify the design and so on. So there are really very few limitations to using those libraries. Everything that you see in the standard libraries can relatively easily also be done in your own company library if you want. Okay, so let's go to the next product. And in many ways, this is of course the main product of the suite. This is Picador 2D, which is the solution where you design the actual structure of a box or of a point of sales piece and so on. So when you look at that, what it does is exactly that structural design. It's a highly specialized 2D design tool with lots of different functionality that helps you to create clean die-cut outlines for boxes. That's the problem if you use something like Illustrator, that is a generic tool, is that lots of people know Illustrator pretty well, but it's still very, very difficult to design a good die cut where all the lines are connected, where everything fits exactly, and so on. That's a lot easier in Picador because it was optimized for that kind of work from the start. You can import all kinds of formats as you would expect, CF2, DXF, but also EPS, Adobe Illustrator, and PDF. And you can also export to those formats. That means that you can very easily use this in a mixed workflow. So I could do the structural design in Picador, export as Illustrator or DXF or PDF, and then, for example, use that as a basis to also start designing the artwork on the box using Adobe Illustrator. So it can very easily be used in that kind of fixed workflow, or mixed workflow rather. Also, we've done a number of webinars about IC3D, the 3D visualization tool for packaging. one of the things you can do there is start from a DXF file or a PDF file that contains the die cut of a box and then fold it inside of IC3D and then add high resolution, high quality artwork to it. Of course, Picador is ideal to create that initial DXF or PDF file that you need and then do the rest of the 3D work in IC3D. We'll come back to, I'll give some more comments on IC3D once we talk about the 3D model in Picador, because there are obvious differences between the two solutions. I don't think it's a matter of lots of competition on that front. The Picador 2D also supports layout of one-up, so step and repeat and so on. So you can use this to design a single box, but you can also use it to design the step and repeats and fit boxes inside each other in an efficient way. It is the dashboard, if you want, where you can jump to all the other modules. So I could launch Picador 2D and then click a link to go to the library, find the model that I want and import that into Picador 2D. Again, it has that support for these parametric models or models with variables. In Picador 2D, I can create those. So I can specify what the variables are, how they are going to work, and then, for example, save them into my library. And Picador 2D also has support for cutting tables. I would tell you which cutting tables, but actually the easier thing to do is to say almost all of them. And I think you have some details about a little bit. So, but it's actually, the list is quite quite impressive. If you go to the website, you'll see a full list of what is supported. But I think anything that is a major cutting table is supported there. So let's look at that part as well.
Yeah, let's go over to the 2D engine. We're already in 2D because they opened it from the library, but we can start with a fresh file. So this is the icon for the 2D engine. And this is what it looks like when it's completely empty. You have all the basic CAD drawing tools on the side here, and you can choose what action you want those lines to be over here. So you have all these options for the cutting table to know what it's supposed to do. Let's start by making a few simple drawings. See, I can draw a rectangle just like that. Then I move over to the line tool, and you can see when you move your pointer close to a certain location, you can see different actions that you can take. So over here, it will connect to the end of those lines. Here, it will connect right in the middle. If I start a line here, I can enter the coordinates I want that line to go, compared to where I started it with relative dimensions. If I remove the R's, it's no longer relative, and it is from the point 0 of the file. So I want this, for example, to go 20 up. There we have it, 20 up. Connect to that. See, another tool here is to end up in line with the line underneath it. Then connect over there. I can do the same instead of drawing separate lines with this tool. Once again, enter a coordinates. And then it's a rubber band that connects to the point I ended up. So I can draw a little bit quicker instead of having to draw separate items the entire time. So I'll finish these 4 elements so you can see what I'm getting at here. There we are. So all the red lines here are cutting lines. If I want to select certain lines to be creases, folding lines instead, I can just select all these lines and change this to a crease. Now you can see which are the cutting lines, which are the folding lines. There are also perforations and all that kind of stuff. Now it is possible to move this right over to the 3D application and see the folding with this button here. You can also, if you want to work with your earlier files, import them from the library, either from your own folders here or import them from the library as well. Then you have the export function in which you can choose between all these formats for an export.
Yeah, if you thought that was a quick way to design a box, what Michiel is showing you are actually only the very basic tools. There are also tools that can probably speed this up by another factor of 3 or something like that. And that's the point that I was making initially, is that this is really, really optimized to allow you to draw boxes and structural design quickly, but also accurately. And the fact that you can specify things numerically, for example, is, well, you have to get used to it if you've only worked with Illustrator beforehand. But it is something that allows you to work very accurately with these designs.
The easiest way to design your own box here would, of course, be to take a basic shape from the library, adjust the numbers, and then just play with it with all the tools you have here to adjust it to what you actually want to use.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're keeping this going because it's already almost 4:30. So if I want to keep my promise that this is going to be 45 minutes, I can't delay too much. But if you have questions, feel free to ask them meanwhile. So that's the 2D application, and then the next logical step is this 3D component. And of course, the purpose of the 3D component is twofold, if you want. First, it is a really great way to validate that what you've drawn in 2D is actually going to work in 3D. I mean, if you start folding something, you might see that the dust flaps of a cardboard box, for example, don't match up, or they're too long, or they're going to obstruct something that should not be obstructed. And the other purpose is to give you an idea of how this would look once you have the objects that you want in there, and when you have the artwork on there as well, to give you a graphical view of, is this going to work or not. So what do you have in in Picador 3D? Well, first of all, you have automatic 2D to 3D folding, and that's a major asset. It means that once you have created something, that the application will automatically support folding that and showing you how that works. And you can view folding and unfolding animation. Again, either to show to a client what you have designed for them, or to verify that this is going to work. That's a great advantage. On the 2D artwork that you have, or on the structural design that you folded into 3D object, you can place either 2D artwork, and that's what you saw in the slide before, probably something that was designed in Illustrator, has been placed on the folded carton there to show where all the bits and pieces would go. You can also work with textures to make sure that the inside of a box looks exactly the way you want it, or something like that. You can output to PDF or 3D PDF. You can import CAD models. Again, if you look at the previous slide, what you can see is that you not only have the box in that example, but you also have the glasses, or a representation of the glasses in there. And again, this is important for two reasons, of course. It's important because it shows a client how that box is going to look with the content it is supposed to hold, but it also shows you that that content actually fits, which is not unimportant when you're designing something like that. And then something that if you've seen webinars about IC3D that you might remember from those webinars, there is a link with the Augment service, and Augment is an online service where you can do augmented reality, which means take that box that you've designed and view how that would look on on a shelf while you're in a store, for example. If you don't know what augmented reality is, if you've ever seen anyone play Pokemon, that's what we're talking about. So it's mixing the real environment around you with a fictitious cardboard box, in this case, that you've designed in Picador. Okay, so let's see that one as well.
For the 3D version, it's probably the most fun if I go from the library, pick a box, and move to the process entirely. So we'll just go in here. For example, yeah, this box. We open it in the 2D version, so you can see we're back in the 2D engine. Now we have a button here that exports that to the 3D version. Here we are. See, once again, this is our box. We can create a foldable solid here. Give that a name. And it processes right there. Then this makes our 3D representation. It hasn't been folded here yet. You can see where the creases are. And over here we have a slider that shows you how the box comes together. Now this is just all in one. You can see all the clipping. This is not how you're actually going to fold that box. So how we can make that more realistic is by adding step by step here. So I'll create, see, this is step 0, this is step 1. So that's not how it's going to work. You insert a step here, and you can just see all the flaps you want to folding up. You can, like if that is step 2, and I'll add another step, and I'll fold these in, for example. Then I'll add another step, and I'll fold that one in, and maybe these as well. Add another step. This one comes up. You can see how the box will actually fold. I think I'm probably doing this in a completely wrong order, but
I think you are, yes.
I haven't actually tried out this box yet.
But it's easy to do, and it's easy to redo as well if you make a
there you go. So I added a few steps this time. So we can go back to this slider here, and you'll see it'll fold step by step the way I defined it earlier. So this is not the most realistic way to fold this box either, but it'll show you how to do it. Then we have all the export functions up here. And we can, as David said, add an actual object, for example, this Coke can to the scene. Here we have a Coke can, a 3D object. We can add that to the scene here. And now if we look at our box, there we have the box. See, the Coke can is with the box. And you'll see, this Coke can will actually fit in the box. You can adjust the position of the can, adjust the position of the box until everything is the way you want to visualize it. But that's basically how that goes. So if I want to move this Coke can out of the way and open up the box and put it inside, that's possible the way you saw in the image with the glasses in the glasses box.
So you can really make compositions of different objects together to get a nice final result.
Yeah. It's also possible to make an animation of you folding the box step by step, as I said, and then maybe opening the box, digging out the Coke can, putting the Coke can next to it. It's all possible to make it into a single animation, which you can then export into that PDF, and then you can show it to your customers, like, here is a PDF showing your box with your product. Now, if you want to add the art as we did earlier, we can see the interior material, exterior material. I'll add a texture to the exterior material. Perfect. Now you see the exterior is all like that. It'll fold the box together as I did earlier, and you can see the 3D version of your box. Of course, you won't be using a box with the tartan on it, but you can add your own files and make your box realistic. Then I think we can go on with the next module of the program.
Okay, Kalle, I saw that you asked one question. I'm not entirely sure what you're asking for. You say bend surfaces?
Yes, you can.
That's like round surfaces, or with like surface tension? Yeah.
It's possible to bend surfaces. It's possible to, for example, if you put a bottle inside a bottle box, you can bend part of the carton with a hole in it to go over the bottle.
Okay.
It's possible. You can do that.
Okay. Cool.
And another question?
No, it was clarification, I think.
Ah, yeah. So
perfect.
It is possible.
Okay, so I think then we are down to the last component. So what we've seen so far is starting from a library or starting in the 2D model or the 2D module itself to build the box that you want, then viewing that in 3D. But in many cases, there is an additional component that comes to that, and that's figuring out what to do with that box. And very often that means loading it on pallets or viewing, figuring out how different boxes will fit together and whether it's an economical design, whether it fits nicely on a pallet, and so on. And that is what Stack Builder has been designed to do. So I think I'm on the wrong screen here with, that should be better. There we go. That's what Stack Builder has been designed to do. It is the calculation of filling cartons. So if I have a smaller box, it goes in a bigger box and things like that, or putting boxes on to a pallet and figuring out how many of those boxes you can fit, what the best layout is to do that, or fitting multiple, for example, pallets into a truck and figuring out what the most economical way to do that is. That also comes with things like strength analysis. I mean, once you start stacking boxes, it's important that the bottom box doesn't collapse once you have filled your truck. And what leads to that, material choice assistance, meaning figuring out what material will be the best material for, or if you use a particular material, what the result or the consequence of that is for the box that you design with that particular material. So pre-flight for physical boxes if you want. So let's take a look at that one as the last part here.
So I don't need these two anymore. There we go. Let's go to Stack Builder.
So this is a separate component again, right?
Yes. I'm going to open a file I have here. This is a simulation of a matchbox. So we have a matchbox containing 240 matches. It has a certain dimension, so length, width, and height, and it has a certain weight indication. This is important for the structural like the tension and everything later on. So this is our matchbox. Then we have a definition of the pallets we're going to use, a standard 0 pallet, and definition of the size that our trucks are going to be. So it's all in there, it's all necessary for the calculations. So I can design, I can add a new box in which I want to store my matchboxes, because a matchbox is really small. There's no point in trying to stack those on a pallet, right? So we have a standard cardboard box here. It has standard definite dimensions as well. So these are the outside dimensions of that box. And you can indicate the weight of the box. I don't know the weight of the cardboard box, but it's also something you can add. So I'll say OK. And now I can do a simulation. How many matchboxes can fit in one of those boxes? So you can choose how you want your matchboxes to go. For the matchboxes, it's really not a problem if they're like that. So I'll say OK. And here you see this is what our box will look like if it's filled with those small matchboxes. Down here, there is all the different varieties of how you can stack the boxes to fill the big box. So the top one is always the most efficient. This one is 92% efficient. There are 150 matchboxes in one cardboard box. If I go for this one, you can see the extra space over there. They are aligned differently, which only allows for 138. Sometimes the way you put your boxes into a box is important for the structure as well, or whether how you want to make it easy for mechanical packing, that kind of stuff. So there are options. I'll select this option because it is the most efficient one. Then we can do a simulation. How many boxes will fit on a pallet? I don't want my big boxes to be on the side because that's annoying. So I'll just say only on the Z-axis. You can say, oh, we can only go this high with our pallets, or we can only go this heavy with our pallets. Let's say, OK. And here we see this is how our boxes are stacked on a Euro pallet. Once again, we have all the different possibilities of how to layer our boxes in here, and you can see immediately what the results are on the pallets over there. Once again, they are shown in order of efficiency. So the top ones are 90% efficient. It contains 70 boxes in 10 layers, and it weighs this much, is this high. It's all on here. So let's say, oh, we're going to use that one. Then later up, we can do a truck simulation. So this is our truck. We can say add a truck analysis with that truck, yes. And here we see this is how all our pallets are going to fit in our truck. And once again, the same thing, different variations of layouts, and always the efficiency, the amount of cases, and the weight, the whole thing. So we know that this truck contains 26 pallets, and it contains 1,820 boxes containing this many matchboxes in between the boxes themselves. Now, it is possible to calculate how the weight influences the packaging, how high you can stack your boxes before they are too heavy and the bottom boxes just squash down and break. But I haven't actually found the function when I was searching for it today, so I can't really show you that right now. If you want more information on it, we can always show it to you later.
But that's fine. I think that's what we've said in the beginning as well. What you've seen here is really an introduction and the basic functionality. I think you've also been able to see while Michiel was showing things that there is a lot more functionality in here than what we've shown so far. So yeah, like you said, if you want to go into more detail about something, then we will be happy to do so as well. One technical thing perhaps is that the software runs only on Windows, right? So if you want to run this on a Mac, you'll have to use some kind of virtual environment. That's actually the same as for some of the other software like IMP that we have. We're using Parallels, that works great, but you can use other virtual environments as well. Taking a look at questions. One question about the side of packaging, but I think that's more about whether you can see the side of a corrugated box, for example, where you can see the texture of how that looks from a side.
You can see the textures, and it will also calculate from the inside of the box towards outside how much space you will need. So yeah, you can choose whether you're calculating the box from the inside dimensions or the outside dimensions, okay, and it will automatically calculate how much your box will be on the other side, depending on the thickness you chose from your corrugated board.
Yeah, so if you know what you want to package, you can say this is the thickness of the material I want to use, and then it will calculate
how big
total
it will,
dimension.
how big it will get. Yes,
Okay.
And you will see it in the program as well.
Perfect. And then there was one question about modules, but I'll take that once I've talked about commercial stuff. And then that's actually, I'm not sure we can handle now. Kalle, your last question, I think goes a little bit beyond. We'll get back to you on that one, okay? I don't want to go into too much detail right now. Let's finish this up with the section on commercial stuff, which is also not unimportant, I think. First of all, before I show you how expensive this is going to be, some of the modules that we've talked about, the PackLib model, so the library with templates, and also, if I'm correct, the palletization module, are also available for free, so you can use them separately from Picador for free. In the case of the library with package designs, what is important is that you realize that the free library, so what you can download from the Tridin website for free, that contains a lot less templates than the version that is shipped with Picador. So some of the functionality is available for free. You can just download that from the Tridin website, but keep in mind, of course, that when you buy a license for Picador, that you'll get more than what is in the free version, which I think is reasonable as well. If we look at this from a commercial point of view, it's actually quite simple. And what we suggest usually is a Picador site license that is 3,500 euros, and it can be installed on as many systems as you want within one site of a company, so in one physical location if you want. That is the purchase price, no subscription here or anything like that. This is just software purchase like we did 20 years ago. And then the first year of support and maintenance is already included in that price. That's important to note because for most of the software that we sell, that is not the case. You have to pay that separately. Here, this 3,500 euro is the purchase price and includes the first year of support and maintenance. And then from that point on, so from the second year on, if you want, there is a 1,500 euro cost for the support and maintenance contract per year. Pretty standard stuff in that sense, but that tells you what it would cost as well. So from a commercial point of view, it's a pretty straightforward way of dealing with things, even though you've seen different modules in the solution, PackLib and so on, that live as separate applications and can be used as separate applications. There is just one license that you require to run this. So where to go from here? Well, it's actually quite simple. There are trial downloads available, so you could download the solution and play with it. But of course, you can also ask us for more information. As always, if you have questions that concern commercial things or sales, there is an orders@4piece.com or a sales@4piece.com email address. If you have technical questions or want to go deeper into functionality of applications, then you have the support@4piece.com email address. You also have both my and Michiel's email address on there. We have a longer version too, but I think we're both happy that the just first name works as well. So if you have anything specific that you want to ask either one of us, don't hesitate, just send us an email. Okay, let me see if it is if there are still questions, I think that concludes what we want to what we wanted to share with you. If you have any more questions, please enter those in the GoToWebinar control panel. Let me see what we haven't answered yet. So if a customer wants to make boxes of a specific size and he has a specific piece of media, is it possible to calculate how many boxes they can get out of that? I guess it's more of a step and repeat question.
The way we did earlier to put the matchboxes into the cardboard box, I think this would work the same way. I'm not sure at this time if you can calculate an object to be how many times an object fits into a box, but it's definitely possible to have a smaller box being calculated into a bigger box.
Yeah, but I think the question is different. I think the question is, if you have a sheet of carton and you have the 2D design of one carton, can you figure out how many cartons you can do you basically can do step and repeat or impose on that sheet?
That's, yeah, step and repeat question, I suppose.
Diego, I think the answer is yes, but what would be good in this case, send us a short email with an example, for example, and then we'll figure out what the best way is to do that, and we'll get back to you with that. But we're pretty sure it's possible to do so. Like I said, it would be good to have an example so that we can look at that. Is it possible to add crop marks for several kinds of machines? I think that's part of the support for digital cutting machines.
Yes.
And so on, right?
The file can be exported for pretty much all cutting tables, and I believe it, depending on which table you use, it will, with that export format, add the crop marks and other metadata you need for the cutting table.
Yeah. Well, it's not a question, it's a remark about pricing. I agree, Kalle, this is actually good value for money. I totally agree.
Yes, you can. You can create a box around the product if you put the model in there.
Of course, you will. Hold on, let me repeat the question. Yeah. So the question was, if you have a physical object, can you create a cardboard box that goes around it and fits the model?
Yeah, you saw the Coke can I imported earlier. Most likely, if you have a product you want to have a box for, you'll know the size of your product. So you can just work around the size, put the model in there, you can see the model next to the box you're working on.
Yeah, and you can actually go one step further, Kalle. I've seen a very nice demo where there was one of those boxes that holds glasses. And what you typically do is there is a cutout in the cardboard where that glass fits in, so that it gets kind of stuck in the cardboard box. You can actually use a combination of the 2D and the 3D module in Picador to figure out how the cutout should be so that the glass fits exactly into the box. So that is definitely possible. Let me see if there is something else. Yes, so I think that's what boils down to your last question then. Does it somehow snap to the 3D model? Yes, the answer is yes, and you can use a 3D model to even not just snapping, but to calculate what kind of cutout you would need in a cardboard flap of your box so that the glass will snugly fit into that box. So those things are definitely possible. And that's also that's what is nice about the solution, is that it's not just a 2D design tool like you have in Illustrator, but that it has this mix of these 4 modules and that they all work together. It makes it much quicker to design the final object that you have, and you can be much more assured in the end that the die line that you have will actually work. And then because of the support for cutting tables, you can of course very easily make a tryout model of these boxes on a digital cutting table. Okay, great. Good questions. I think I more or less kept my word by what I said about timing. We have another 5 minutes before it's 5 o'clock. That's great. If you have specific questions about what we talked about today, don't hesitate. Send us an email. I will briefly go back to the previous slide and show you that support@4ps.com email address again. Send us an email and we will be happy to set up a personalized demo or help you with a download and some training on the solution. Cool. The only thing that I'm left with is thanking you all for joining this webinar. And I'm sure I will see many of you again in the upcoming weeks. Have a great day.